Swatting is the harassment tactic of calling the police to another person's house for a made-up reason. Usually a hostage situation or violent crime. Officially recognized by the FBI for the past 10 years, incidences have been on the rise since the advent of live streaming sites like Twitch and YouTube Gaming. In 2015, a swatting victim in Oklahoma was shot multiple times. And in 2017, Andrew Finch of Wichita, Kansas was fatally shot after being randomly swatted by 2 Call of Duty players.
Okay. Leave what you got.
Most recently, popular live streamer Ice Poseidon was swatted for the 13th time. Last Thursday, Poseidon posted a follow-up video arguing against viewers and police who claim his own behavior encourages and enables the harassment.
I have to deal with the police telling me that I'm doing it to myself, and I have to deal with people on Reddit and the internet who think that they know what they're talking about.
In light of these incidents, questions about how to prevent and responsibly discuss swatting have become more pressing, with websites and communities like Our Livestream Fail banning all swatting-related content altogether. But the questions still remain. How do we effectively moderate these videos? Who's responsible for that moderation? And most importantly, how do we stop swatting? Let's find out in the thread.
Let's go ahead and start with you, Julia. Again, thank you for joining us. Can you give us kind of a rundown of what the current state of the swatting on Twitch is? Like basically where we're at in the conversation, where the internet is at with swatting?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting topic, and what we're seeing happening is the Twitch community itself kind of taking it upon themselves to say, how much do we want to play into this conversation? Do we want to take clips of it happening to someone like Ice Poseidon on live.me or on YouTube, and do we want to talk about other Twitch streamers being swatted? And a major subreddit dedicated to Twitch just came up with this poll, and they basically say, we're going to ban all conversation and all links to clips of swatting incidents because we want to stop the media contagion. We want to stop promoting this idea that we're glorifying the act of swatting, because obviously it can be fatal in very severe cases, and it's just, they're basically saying it's not cool.
Yeah, I mean, so basically their plan was to, first of all, I was amazed that Reddit had like a very intelligent conversation about something and solved a problem. It was actually really inspiring. But they said, hey, let's ban all this stuff. And it was basically to say, like, the reason people are swatting people is because they want the attention. They want the reaction. They want to see what happens, right?
Right. So there's this term in the media it's called media contagion. It's usually used in school shooting situations. It's the idea that we're not going to use the name of the school shooter because we don't want to give them attention and inspire copycats who are looking for attention.
Yeah.
So the idea is that let's do the same thing with swatters. And this is the first major kind of subreddit to basically say we're not going to encourage this behavior with Twitch streamers and YouTubers.
Yeah, I mean, my question is, like, isn't there a more nuanced way to do this? Because at the same time, it's like there's other parts of this story that they're, I guess, if I'm not mistaken, they're going to miss. If they ban all media, then they're never going to know what are the repercussions of swatting. They're never going to be able to show a news clip of someone's sentencing for doing these kind of things. So, I mean, would you say that an all-out ban is an awesome idea, or would you say it's, it's a little bit problematic in of itself?
I mean, I think it comes down to objective decision. Credit to a lot of subreddit moderators who have figured out a way to kind of have democratic processes. They use polls all the time to figure out what the best interest of the subreddit is. Okay. I think it's difficult when you're saying, what are we going to allow? What aren't we going to allow? I think what they're kind of seeing is like, we're being pointed to as the subreddit, as this culture of Twitch streamers who are glorifying really terrible behavior, and we want to stop it. So what they're saying is, for the time being, we're going to ban it. I mean, maybe they re-examine it. I know that there's states who are looking to push swatting bills. Maybe they re-examine it in 6 months and they say, okay, let's have actual discussions about the academic purposes of including clips or links. But for the time being, we're really going to shut it down and basically say we don't want to encourage any type of behavior that could end in a lethal incident.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems a little bit reactionary, and there's a lot of different ways that we can handle it in the future. I do want to get back to Josh, if we can hear you. Josh, can we hear you?
Yeah, you should be able
Oh my God!
Now, hopefully. Oh my God. That's
Hey,
good.
Josh, I wasn't wrong. That mic sounds great, buddy.
All right, awesome. I'm glad.
So Josh, you are unfortunately someone who has experienced this firsthand. For people
Right.
who have never seen anything like this or don't know what it is, what exactly happens when somebody swats you? What is that like? What was the experience like for you?
First, it's like, holy shit, this is actually happening to me. Second thing is, you try to get it depends on where you're at. Because when it happened to me, I was living with my family after I'd gotten back from a deployment with the military. And so it was a matter of explaining to my mom, my stepdad, that just hold on, let me get the door. But we couldn't even open the door because they were trying to keep our hands in the air when they were pointing assault rifles at us. And so it's kind of a tricky thing just in my situation to get my family, because my family has no idea what that was. They had no idea what was going on. And so it can be kind of chaotic at first just to get the message across to the police that, it's a hoax, everything's fine. When you have this type of situation, when you have law enforcement that's showing up on the scene, the first responders, they're just as nervous and as freaked out as you are.
Yeah.
And with the incidents that happened earlier this year in Kansas, that really hit home because it was basically the same thing, except someone had discharged their weapon and he died. So people can die in these instances and there's nothing even going on. It's just someone decided to make a phone call to the police, making something up. So when I found that out, that was very terrible.
Yeah, I mean,
Hear that.
naturally, the whole thing is like pretty sickening. I don't understand it myself, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about is like, okay, what do we do now? So obviously, as Julia said, it's like a very popular subreddit. I'm going to say the most popular aggregator of all live stream clips said, hey, we're done with this. We're not going to share it at all. You're someone who had it happen to you. You're someone whose experience was shared around the internet. Do you actually feel like this is a good way to handle this and to discourage people from doing it?
That's tricky. I feel like it's been a learning process trying to figure out what we have to do to combat this. One thing that I did is I didn't tell anyone where I lived, my city, my hometown. I tried to stay as anonymous as possible. Yeah, I was still exposed. For people that are streaming IRL and when people know what their location is and it's public, it's very difficult to prevent something like that from happening. You could have someone from halfway across the world do that to you, like we've seen to other streamers. And so in hindsight, I wish I would have kept more of what happened to me private, because it would have done, the person that did it to me what he had done would have been less visible to the world. But it's very tough to try and figure out how we approach this, because we've been trying to figure it out for the last 3 years and it hasn't really stopped anything. You still have people doing it. You have people dying. So it is not perfect, and we still have to figure out what we need to do against this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it all leads to that one big question, which, I mean, if you guys have an answer to, I'd love to hear it. What is the solution? How do we stop swatting, or how do we take a serious step forward in stopping it? Like, does anyone have any good ideas? Julia?
I think there are a couple of different avenues that are being explored right now. We know that video game publishers are partnering with companies like Twitch and Mixer. I believe YouTube is not involved right now, to tackle basically player behavior, to kind of figure out how do we go about of changing the culture, the negative culture surrounding gaming, and really bring out the positives. I think swatting is one of the concerns that they have, especially with streamers and esports, and this idea that streamers are putting themselves out there, and they're putting themselves there for quite a bit of time, and they're playing competitively, and there's a lot of concern around it. I think what we really need to hear is publishers and studios saying, we are going to try to shut down the negative behavior as much as we can, and working with law enforcement to really figure out how do we go about this. It sounds like they're on the right path, and it's clear that the communities themselves are saying this is no longer entertaining, this isn't funny, no one is encouraging this. So I think they're on the right path.
Well, amazing. Thank you so much, Julia. A lot of good points there. Josh, any last words really quick about any suggestions you would have for what you think the answer is or the right direction is to move on this?
I mean, I guess any suggestions that I would just give to other people that are broadcasting or in the industry and doing this kinds of things, and that's just trying to keep your minimal personal details out there just to a minimum. Don't advertise where you're going to be at, specific locations, even sometimes like your city is a big one. Taking whatever steps that you can, any precautions that would try to minimize how many people actually know where you are. And other than that, I don't really know what else we can really do to deter these kinds of things from happening. Ultimately, if someone really wants to do something like this to you, unfortunately, there's a lot of resources and tools out there on the internet that someone has access to, where they can, cause harm to someone.
Yeah, well,
It's just the state of reality of what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, very sound advice. I'm glad we had the sound to hear you, Josh, and you, Julia, as well. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Koopa Troopa 787 and Julia Alexander from Kotaku. Thank you guys, or from Polygon, my bad. Thank you guys for being on our panel today and helping us solve this problem, or at least take some steps in the right direction. Unfortunately, that's the end of the interview. We got to get back to the show and talk about FUPAs, I guess. We'll be right back after this. Thank you, guys.
Whoa, wow.